Hello, my friends. Glad to see you back for the rest of this list. Yes, it is very exciting, I know. So, let's get right to it. Number 15. For a 5-song EP, I have to say that Floating Point's Shadows pays off more like a full-length LP. It's patient when it needs to be, and Shadows, it's cool as ice. To me, it sparsely resembles kind of like a spaced-out jazz lounge music, and it's really one of the most kind of essentially alluring pieces of music you'll probably hear all year. Just another great example of one of those albums I couldn't let go or put down at all in 2012. Ugh, boy, did I miss out on ex-military before I made my 2011 list. But thankfully Death Grapes did release another masterpiece, so I guess I can kind of retribute myself here. Anyways, The Money Story is just another near-perfect release from this brutally aggressive hip-hop act. It's practically like a relentless assault on your eardrums, but unless you don't know who the Needle Drop is, you're probably already crazy about this one. So, need I say more? Alright, we're getting down to the albums that were actually good enough for me to own on this list. And I've probably talked about Dustin Wong's Dream Save You Create Shadow Leads enough on this channel as it is, and I'm even kind of amazed that it's still an album that I really do love. The twinkling psychedelic jams on this still gives me the same butterflies as when I heard this, first heard it back in spring. So if you ignored me before on this one, please check this out. You might find it as a hidden treasure that'll be a gem in your collection, as it is in mine. What a story, Kendrick. I believe it was Brandon who was the first one to introduce me to this lovely band, Hop Along. When he told me that their music was free to listen to on their Bandcamp, I can't say the first thing that popped into my head was that, oh man, this album's going to end up being one of my favorite albums of the year, but here we are. Never going to doubt you again, Brandon. Great list, by the way, for your 2012 list. In a year that was quite sparse and good indie music, Hop Along were the indie sweethearts that made up for it all, so applause to Hop Along. Nice job. The Idler Wheel is just another one of those albums on this list that probably everybody watching has already listened to by now, so I'm sure we all got our own opinions, but I'm still kind of surprised that there's some people who just don't dig this album. Even if you don't see yourself as a Fiona Apple fan, you can't deny how well crafted all the emotion that is put into the arrangement and the lyrics on this album. I don't see myself as a fan of Fiona's peers per se, but this album really just stands out as a classic to me. Okay, this is another situation where I just couldn't choose one album. Each album that Lee Gamble came out with this year is vastly different from the next, but both these albums are bloody brilliant, to say the least. And in Diversions, 1994 to 96, the one I'm holding in my hand right here, Lee Gamble kind of revisits his early use of session with jungle mixes, which I believe is early drum and bass style music. But anyways, he recomposes these mixes into bold, ghostly ambient tracks that really sound like nothing else out there. Dutch Tvashtar Plumes, on the other hand, is kind of falls along the lines of glitch and IDM experimentalism. These are two vastly different albums once again. Both as unpredictable as the next, and I can't say they are very challenging albums, so it just might be something you have to try out for yourself to see if you like it. I guess if there's one artist I could kind of compare this to is maybe like Aphex Twin, just not like one point of his career, but nearly all of it, I guess. So yeah, I found this freakishly good. See what you think. Daughn Gibson has already been receiving comparisons to the vocal deliveries of Golden Age country bastards Lee Hazelwood and Johnny Cash. If you mix that with Arcel Russell, The Dirty Beaches, and what my friend Evan at the record store describes as a bubbling array of loose honey instrumentation, you'll get all hell. A home run of a debut that just really sounds supreme on vinyl, I must say. If you would have told me that Black is Beautiful by Dean Blunt and Inda Copeland was going to make the top 10 of this list at the beginning of the year, I probably would have, well, first made love to you out of admiration of how hipster you assume I am, but then after, I'd call you crazy. Black is Beautiful is quite possibly the most abnormally aimless lo-fi tape recordings I've ever heard, and I mean that's saying something for how hipster I can be. I mean, the word vintage is ironically enough a good term to describe this album. I mean, I can only imagine that the instruments that were used to create this work were purchased at a thrift store, regardless of the condition they were in. I mean, there's just a good mixture of abstract pop tunes and quirky, experimental, Eno-esque ambient tunes that makes Black is Beautiful another great addition to the ever-diversifying Hyperdub label, and just another reason why Hyperdub was so great this year. See? Hyperdub. The instrumentals on NXB can probably best be described as a Shino style of grime. These instrumentals are provided by a beat maker named Palmistry, who actually helped out on that Oxycontin album I mentioned in my number 30 spot on this list. He just really provides this dark backdrop that makes this album sound as if it was dragged out of the congested tenement buildings in Chinatown during a rainy night. A very cool atmosphere on this album in that sense. What makes NXB different than any of the albums on this list too, which have lyrics, I guess, is that Vignan, aka Triad God, speaks in his mother tongue of Cantonese pretty much all the way throughout the album. I mean, except for the last track, pretty much the chorus on that. And I may not be able to understand what he's saying, but he delivers in a fashion that's as authentic and as enduring as a song by Mike Skinner. And you guys know how much I love Mike Skinner's. That explains why it's so high on this list. Maybe I have a bias towards it. But, I mean, from Laurel Halo to James Favreau, the label Hippos and Tanks has been really notorious for introducing hipsters to some original left field electronic music. And I can safely say that Triad God is another great addition to the Hippos and Tanks list. I'm very excited for a sophomore album from this guy. Well, here we are at everybody's favorite hipster of 2012. And wow, I mean, this year wouldn't have been the same without you, Grimes. Visions, I mean, what a beautifully imperfect retro indie pop dance anomaly that just came out of nowhere. Fronted by what might be mistaken for a miniature elf girl, Visions could easily be considered one of the year's most inconsistent albums, but I mean, it easily proved to be one of the most year's enjoyable listens as well for many people. I mean, it feels as much like a voyage as it does a great collection of 13 engaging songs. I mean, no wonder grime stole the hearts of so many hipster dudes in 2012. Okay, if there's any reason why I did shit on finals last semester, it's because I was addicted to late nights with Jeremih like crack cocaine. I mean, wow, when I downloaded this mixtape for free, yes, for free, I just wasn't ready for how amazing it would be. I mean, the production on this one really shines. I mean, the beats are so fat and juicy, it makes you want to sink your teeth into them. The vocal manipulations are so fly, I mean, they'll make you smirk at times. And I mean, all I have to say is one of the best assets of this album is that, I mean, despite how glamorous it can be at times, it doesn't consistently take itself seriously. I mean, it knows what type of album it is. And I mean, it can features braggadocious rappers like 2 Chainz, E40, Gucci Mane, who all fit perfectly on this. And its interludes and openings are just ridiculous. I mean, for example, it starts out with this gluttonous man who goes to a Jeremih concert with his wife and orders ribs and nachos and continues to brag about how it's going to be, like the concert of the year. And I mean, it's practically playing a joke on itself, but I mean, it ends up turning out to be one of the most enjoyable albums of the year anyway, so it's like, what the hell, man? I mean, I really don't see myself putting this one down soon. I mean, I'd say it's worth buying for the replay value, but it's free as a little B album, for God's sakes. I mean, I'm jealous of any woman who has spent a night with Jeremih. I mean, you all should be ashamed of yourselves. All I could hope for is that Jeremih will, I mean, someday reveal that he actually enjoys the company of men as well, which brings me to the next album on this list. Okay, once again, I mean, I don't understand the flack that this album has been receiving from so many hipsters. I mean, even if Frank Ocean doesn't have the greatest voice in the field of R&B, Channel Orange is way too smooth to be denied of its elegance. I mean, I honestly don't know much of Frank Ocean's affiliation with Odd Future, nor have I even bothered to listen to his debut Nostalgia Ultra, but I mean, I could care less because I'm satisfied with what I have with this release right here. I mean, thank you to all the music blogs who came out and were like honest about placing Channel Orange in their top 3 this year. And I mean, I'm tired of all the people who keep putting the song Pyramids like on a pedestal as if it was like the only good song on this album. I mean, every song on this sexy beast of an LP is just fucking fantastic. I mean, even the short interludes. And if you don't like me placing Channel Orange in my top 3, I mean, I hope to God you stopped taking my list seriously after you saw me place the Birthday Sex Dude at number 4. Probably no surprise to anyone who remembers me putting Our Logic in my top 10 of 2011 list. I mean, this woman continues to impress me with everything she releases. Quarantine still sounds like nothing I've ever heard before, and there are just not enough words I could use to describe how ill it makes me feel. I mean, it's understandable that, I mean, this album, that it's not for everybody, but the sadness that is trapped inside this cerebral alien world that is quarantine it speaks to me, and that's why it's so well deserving of my number 2 spot on this list. You know, I'd be lying if I told you that I wasn't tempted to put Frank Ocean or Grimes atop my list a few times during the course of the year, but undoubtedly, Voices from the Lake self-titled led the pack for the vast majority of the year. And, I mean, I hope I don't regret saying this, but this could be the most entrancing album I've heard since Lunel's Vocal City. The naive song skippers are going to disregard Voices from the Lake's repetitive bassline beats as dull, but the keen observer will be drawn into Donato, Dozy, and Neil's complex acid rain melodies in a way that they won't want to let go once induced by its rhythm. It's really like nothing else. I mean, due to how well each song is so seamlessly weaved into each other. I'll often listen to voices from the lakes, and I'll get so lost in its soundscape that I won't realize that the songs has changed since, or until at least I reached the centerpiece of the album. I mean, it's really just that entrancing. With a ridiculous amount of detail on this techno masterpiece, it would be difficult for me to find a more deserving candidate for album of the year, and this was very good year in music, at least from what I've heard so far. But I mean, I'm glad another year. Number one spot going to the United States in Artist. I mean, what is that, 3 years in a row now? First year in 2010, I gave it to Beach House from Baltimore, and 2011, I gave it to Shabazz Palaces, of course, from Seattle. And this is just a great time to be living in the United States with, I mean, so many musicians dominating in this country. I mean, I wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
Man, they're actually from Italy, I'm sorry to say.
Are you serious? Shit, I screwed it up. Oh, man. Fuck. This list is so over. I can't take this anymore. Fucking Italians. Flaming fuckers.